Ooh. Hello, everyone. How's it going? It's now July 29th, 2021, and we are here live streaming to you on another Thursday night. This is time for the OnoLive Coffee and Cigars live stream number 53. Yes. And we're here rolling. And I'm digging it today. We're just rocking along here. It's been a pretty interesting week. I'll turn that down. And I hope the sound is coming out all right. But wherever you are today, hope things have been going well. And out here in Baltimore, it's a pretty warm and humid night tonight. So if you're outside, ooh, man, I feel you. I feel you. But we're here broadcasting to you live, and it's pretty pleasant inside the studio today. I've been able to run the AC pretty long, and just turned on the exhaust, and I'm starting to feel it. I think we got to really do better with this. So anyway, we're here tonight, and we got some things going on. We got some coffee, and we got some cigars to smoke with us tonight, so it's all good. What are we doing today? So what's been happening to you guys? So what are you guys smoking? What are you drinking? This week has been an interesting week. I decided about 3, 4, 5 weeks ago that we were going to close down the Hamden retail shop for Spro and focus on other things. Maybe do more YouTubing and, you know, whatever else comes to mind. So the last day of the shop was last Sunday, this past Sunday. So closed down, and then we had our online auction that took place on Monday. Then yesterday, they took whoever won the loot, they came and took it all away, and now I'm just got to clean up before turning back the space to the landlord on the last day of the month, the 31st, so on Saturday. So it's been an interesting week. A lot of people ask me, am I sad? Well, there's always a little bit of that, but really, I've been looking forward to this, looking forward to doing new things and interesting things, All right, so tonight, I thought we'd go for a little bit of... Oh, we have comments already. George is here. Hey, George, welcome to the show. Smoking the Mil Diaz Limited Edition 2021 and drinking some Maker's 46. Excellent. Thanks for letting me know. And if you guys are, whatever you're smoking and drinking, drop those in the comments too. Want to know what you're doing. The Mil Diaz is a really great cigar. But today we're going to be going over, since it's the middle of summer and it's blazing kind of time of year, I thought we'd do a little cold brew. Now, we've done some kind of cold brew, but I thought I'd show you about the type of cold brew that we've been using at the shop recently. And this one's a little bit more involved. It's the toddy style of cold brew. So there's many different types of cold brew. You can do it many different ways. This is only one of them. And this particular style of cold brew allows you to create large volumes of cold brew in a relatively simplified manner, right? We have these towers that you might have seen in some of the videos, and those are quite complex, meaning that you can only produce a gallon every 12 hours. And so if you want to get 2 gallons an hour, 2 gallons in 24 hours, you got to keep turning it. There's a lot more work involved. It's really beautiful, and it's really picturesque and stunning to see. However, it just takes a lot more work. The toddy, we can scale to, 5 gallons or even larger, and create coffee essentially en masse. So I've got the home version here. This is the toddy coffee maker, and this particular toddy's been around for a long time. And the thing about this was given to me as a gift a while back, and the packaging is very outdated. Like, this is packaging from probably 20 years ago, but the system works the same. So we'll open it up and get into it. So we have unboxing video. We've got our carafe. And then we have our brewing device. Yep. And so essentially this does not have a lid, but it does have a handle. So this handle goes in as thus, right? Sits there and just allows you to hold it like this. But as you can see at the bottom here, there is kind of this like reduction chamber, right? It reduces, whoop, whoop, like that, right? You can see it in here. So for this particular type of toddy, you take the bung, the rubber bung, and you place it at the bottom, and you seal the hole. And then in the other side of it, you take this pad, and this is like a cottony, thick pad of fibrous material, right? And you're going to take that and put that at the bottom, and this acts as your filtration device, like that. Then from here, you're going to take pretty fine, pretty coarsely ground coffee. And if you want to use the full volume, you're going to use a pound of coffee. And so you take a pound of ground coffee, you put that in the bottom, just on top of this filter. And you add, and you fill it up with water. This will hold roughly a gallon of water, more or less. But you fill it all the way to the top. Now this particular one, since it is kind of old, maybe they might have updated this home version. I'm not sure. I use the much larger commercial styles. But basically you take this and then you add the water, make sure that the coffee will float, right, as you're adding it. And so you just want to make sure that as you're adding the water, you break the crust down and keep it fully saturated. And then you can put this in your refrigerator. But before you do that, I suggest covering it with saran wrap, right? Put some cling film on top just to prevent anything from falling in. And then you can put that in your refrigerator overnight. Or you can leave it out. If it's not terribly wet, you can leave it out anyway. Especially if you're in air-conditioned conditions, you should be fine. And so you leave that there for, let's say, 16 hours. Overnight, 16 hours, whatever you want to do. And then when you're done, you're going to take the carafe that comes with it, right? And this has a lid. And then you're going to hold it over the top of it, right? And this bung here, we're going to take the bung out. And you want to, remember now this is full, right? This will be full and the bung will be under pressure. So you want to keep it over the opening of the carafe so that when you pull it, the coffee will automatically flow through into the carafe. Now, then you can just set it on top as thus and wait for all of the liquid to flow through that fibrous filter at the bottom of this unit. And that takes a little while, not too long, but once that's all finally filtered through, you can then just, dump out the grinds, clean it out, rinse it out, and this fibrous filter pops out, and you could rinse it and use it several times. I mean, you can use it quite a lot. Mine's not too dirty despite being the age, because I actually don't use this particular one very often. But then once that's done, you now have this cold brewed coffee that fills this carafe. And this is what we consider a coffee concentrate, because you're using a full pound of coffee and you're steeping that in 1 gallon of water. And that actually produces, in over 16 hours or 12 hours, it produces enough extraction so that the soluble content of the coffee is very heavy, right? And so what you do is you'll dilute this on a 1-to-1 ratio to make it drinking strength. And now if you don't want to make a concentrated brew, you could just use half a pound, full gallon of water, and then same thing, right? Again, it goes back to the ratios. You can play with the ratios as much as you want. And you could probably even go for like higher concentrations of coffee and use less, and then you could do thirds. So you could do like 3 times the amount, or 1.5 times the amount, and then now you have thirds. So you just 1/3, 2/3, right? 1/3 of the concentrate, 2/3 of water. But you can, but the simplest way to do it is the way it was designed. Full pound, gallon of water, let it steep overnight, 12, 16 hours, drain it through, and then dilute on a 1-to-1 basis. Very easy. Now, the bigger ones that we use at the shop are these commercial ones. They're 5 gallons, and they're essentially big 5-gallon pails, right? And what, instead of using that little flow-through fibrous filter, there's actually a big, essentially a coffee bag, right? A coffee filter. Imagine a coffee filter that's a bag that's about this big. Yeah, about that big, right? You fill that with, in this case, 5 pounds of coffee, ground coffee. And then that filter paper, of course, if you're holding a filter paper, if you're holding 5 pounds of coffee, and then you're wetting it down, so it's like, 10 pounds, that's not going to hold that weight. So we actually take that filter bag, put that into a larger mesh bag. If you do any kind of home brewing, that kind of mesh bag that you put some of the barley and the wheat and the hops, or not the hops, but the grains in, the grain type of bag, it's something similar to that. So you're double bagging it, and that contains the coffee. And then after you've done your extraction and your overnight, you pull that out and let it drain. So we will typically use like a big we used to use a big colander. Pull the bag out, slip the colander, and drop back on and let it drain for 20 minutes or so. And that would create our large-scale cold brew. And then we would have 5 gallons of concentrate, and then we would it would make enough for 10 gallons worth of cold brew. But for the home user, the 1 gallon is much more ideal, because even the craft is easy to keep in your fridge. Now, Toddy also recommends that if you wanted to do low acidity hot coffee, that you could take this, mix it with hot water, or heat it somehow. What do they say? Let's see what they say on the box. Does it say? Does it say? No. So if you do that, just add boiling water to it. All right, so like I said, at the shop, we do it in a much larger scale. And so what I did is during our last brew of the big toddy, I took a sample. And the sample is much larger than this, but this is what I use for the show. So this is the iced coffee that we use at the shop. This is brewed by me back, probably, when did I brew this? Friday night. This was an overnight Friday night, so it's a week old. Under refrigeration should be fine. Oh, the light is dead. We're not prepared. And the light is not powerful enough. All right, so as you can see, this is a concentrated brew, the cold brew. This is cold brew, and so what this is a coffee that we have from Nicaragua. That's made for us by the Mirish family. And this one is a Caturra that has gone under anaerobic fermentation, which converts the malic acids to lactic acid, so malolactic fermentation. And so this low oxygen malolactic fermentation actually gives the coffee a creamy, sweet character that I was really stunned when I first tried this, like in 2014, 2015. I was just stunned by it. It was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like, how is this even possible? And so the moment that I was tasting, and I probably talked about this in the past, but this coffee, when I was tasting it, I was thinking to myself, this would be great cold. This would be amazing as cold brew. And so the Mirish family has made this for us ever since. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful way to have iced coffee. Cold brew, whatever you want to call it. Now, a lot of people say iced coffee, a lot of people say cold brew. Actually, I use both. I use them both interchangeably. I don't really have any kind of some people are very meticulous. They're very much like, oh, cold brew is only this way. And I'm like, oh God. Give me a break. It's coffee, for God's sake. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, we're going to drink. So, not high enough. All right, so this is our glass. And now we're going to take some ice. Oh, and Rusty's there. What's going on, Rusty? How's things in Waikiki? Aloha to you. Aloha no. Rusty, I saw you went to a Hawaiian restaurant, but you have not been to Helena's. Do you not have a car? Okay, so now we've got the coffee, right? The coffee's here. Oh, we've got the glass with the ice. Ice is important. So we're going to take the coffee. This has been, I've been keeping it, you can see the frostiness, right? Because I've been keeping it in the fridge. So we're going to pour this down. We'll pour half. Yeah, right about there. Good. Then we're going to add some beautiful tap water from Baltimore. Oh, yeah. And I don't have a thing to... Really, at the shop, I would not do it this way. I would already have it pre-mixed, but... And this is why, because look, now I've got... Ooh. That's good, that's good. Oh, you're leaving in a few hours. You're coming back home, or? And then don't have a car for Uber. Oh my gosh. Really? $45? What the hell happened to, what's going on with Uber? You know, it's like when I Ubered to this one place in Copenhagen the last time I was there. Round trip to this bakery, $65 US. It was crazy. Totally worth it. Of course, pipicala ribs are totally worth it at Helena's. Actually, Helena's is interesting. Years ago, Auntie Helena had her restaurant originally on King Street, across the street from our halal. So I used to go to Helena's all the time, like at least weekly. And Auntie would be there, and she was always taking care of us, always welcoming us. And man, good time, man, good time. I love that place. So every time I go back to Honolulu, I always go there. But the thing is, their hours are so crazy now, right? Or they were prior to the pandemic. And like, they're closed, what, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or Monday, Saturday, whatever it was. They just had these, like, hours. And I remember I always had to, like, scramble to get there. I was like, oh, my gosh, I'm going to make it. Because Craig, you know, I don't know, he just runs it, and I don't know. Anyway, whatever. It's good time. You should get it. It's probably, well, they're probably not open. But I would get it on the way to the airport and bring it on the plane. Pipicala ribs on the plane, God. Or even like a zip pack from Zippy's. Oh, God, that would be so good. By the way, did you see Kenji Lopez Alt's Instagram? He's also in Honolulu at the same time that you are. And he's been going around to a lot of places. Like he went to the Lady and the Pig yesterday, and he's been to a bunch of different places. Really interesting. Kind of interesting to watch him try these places. It was Aia Bowl for the oxtail soup. Oh, that's good too. Speaking of bowling alleys in Hawaii, and bowling alleys in Hawaii people, there's always something about Aia Bowl with their oxtail soup. Gardena Bowl in Gardena, California, right? The Gardena Bowl bowling alley, the coffee shop inside the Gardena bowling alley in Gardena, California, right where Artesia meets the 91 freeway, right? They have the best Portuguese sausage anywhere. Better than Honolulu. Better than Hawaii. I tell you. All right, so. So Uber. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Gosh, really, that's terrible. Yeah, you should check it out. It's pretty good. He's been in some interesting places. I don't normally pay that too close attention what Kenji's doing on his Instagram, but when I started seeing Hawaii pop up, you know, I was like, oh, he went to Waiola, Shave Ice. That was good. I was like, oh. Anyway, so here we are. We got the coffee. Yeah, that's lovely. That's just lovely. Nice chocolatey notes, sweetness, a little bit of milkiness, creaminess. It's just a very agreeable, like, you know, you have all these other all these other iced coffees that are very sharp and bright and all that. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in like chocolatey, creamy, just that nice kind of like the idea of black cappuccino, right? Like cappuccino, like sweet, milky, smooth. That's really my ideal cold brew. All right, so now that's that. That just, of course, if you'd like to make this on your own, let me know. SparrowCoffee.com. We've got this on our website called Perla Negra. Oh, lovely, lovely. All right, so what are we doing today? So here's an interesting thing. So I was trying to think of what cigars we're going to do, and then this cigar that we're smoking tonight kind of came up unexpectedly. Like I wasn't really planning on doing a review or featuring it on the show, mainly because, okay, so here's the reality. Like everyone knows, because they can see it every week, that I smoke a lot of RoMa crafts, right? But I try not to do too many RoMas on the show, mainly because I don't want people to think that I'm a fanboy. Plus, I don't want people to think that I'm biased, because there's certainly, that's probably part of it. You know, there's going to be a bias there, right? And so I do it sparingly when there's the right moment. And so this is one of those right moments. Now, all of you know that I love these. These are the Revenge, right? This is the Intemperance BA21 Revenge. BA meaning Brazil Arapiraca, which is the wrapper that they're using. I don't know what the 21 is. Maybe somebody will know. But anyway, they come in boxes of 12. And as you can see, all these boxes are empty because I'm a degenerate for these things. And so these are 5x56, box pressed. My favorite cigar. Easily my favorite cigar. And of all of the cigars that they have, this is my favorite. And so, not too long ago, I got this, the El Catador de los Petit Gordos, right? And this is a tasting box for the Weasel Fest of their new Petit Gordos, which are these, what size are they? They are 5 and, is that right? No. These are 4.5 by 60, and 60 to me is just a little bit crazy. Like I'm not doing 60. 60 is crazy, right? But inside the box, there were 2 rows, and this is the Catador de los Petit Gordos. So as you can see, there is a Neanderthal, Aquitaine, Cro-Magnon, Whiskey Rebellion, the EC, the Ecuador, Connecticut, and then the War. The War is this, 4.5 by 60 with a open foot, shaggy foot. I don't know. What do they call it? What do they call that? I don't know. Anyway, so I started out in this box. So I wasn't intending to like include this for the show, but I was, you know, I started with the Neanderthal, the strongest. And you know what? Within the RoMa craft, like the Weasley world, there's this whole thing of it being called, you know, their cigars are made with what they call man-bacco, right? Man-bacco. And this is too much man for me, you know? The Neanderthal is like strength, right? Just lots of strength. And man, it's just beating you, just beats on you. Like these guys that are all about it, like that smoke it nonstop. Ooh, man, that's just too much for me. And so I went in this order. I went in the Neanderthal, Aquitaine, Cro-Magnon, Whiskey Rebellion, and then this is the husband, and this is the Peace. So the EC version, the Ecuador Connecticut, is called Peace, and then finally it's called the BA is called the War. So as this is when I first started smoking this, and then I went to this. This is when I started thinking, like, oh man, like the way they smoke, the amount, the size, the flavor of these cigars early on made me think, wow, you know what? My favorite is the Revenge, and I was wondering, will the War change my mind about my favorite cigar from RoMa? Will this supplant the Revenge? And this is why I decided that I wanted to smoke it on the show, to have my unbridled thoughts as we went along, because the other ones were very enjoyable. I found a 60 size and 60 by 4.5 to be quite enjoyable. So, yeah, let's do it. We're going to do it. All right, so here it is. 4.5 by 60. Oh, there it is better. With this shaggy foot. Is it shaggy foot? What do they call that? Gosh, sorry. My goodness. There we go, that's better. So there it is. So the wrapper looks dry. It feels a little bit dry, but still feels oily. But not like oily enough for it to be, sheeny. I don't know if that's a word or not. All right, let's. So it's got this light barnyard, light manure. So very pleasant, very familiar. If you like the Intemperance line, the BA line, it's very familiar. All right, so let's cut. All right, there's the cut. Oh, not bad that time. Not bad. Oh, I've got the banner. Oh, that's the wrong banner, too. Oh. We don't have to get rid of the 1 year anniversary. We did that already. All right, so here it is. This time I'm going to roast it. How do you guys prefer to light your cigars? I'm always trying to keep it kind of edgy, angled so that it's not terribly burning the cigar. How is the sound tonight? I can kind of hear it over the headphones that, I can hear the lighter doing its thing. Can you guys hear that? All right, so good smoke, good draw. There's a nice spiciness, like a black pepper. Not really black pepper, but what is a spiciness? There's a spiciness, and like a spice blend that starts off on the tongue, the very forward part of the tongue. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that I like about this size is that the larger ring gauge gives you a lot more smoke on the palate. That's quite nice. Ooh. It's starting off very solid, very solid. right, so this is good. This is good. This is starting off nicely, like lots of full notes of there's a spiciness. And, you know, I want to say, I'm trying to identify, but maybe this is more just a nice solid tobacco, not bright, but like full-bodied or well-rounded, medium to full-bodied with a good amount of spice, like tobacco spiciness. Like sometimes we talk about cigars that are very bright, acidic, or maybe they're very chocolatey, cedar. None of those are here. This is just the kind of flavor goodness that I find in the Revenge, but much in kind of a larger package, meaning that it's more expansive. And here's the thing that I like about the Revenge, because the Revenge is a box press cigar, right? So for some reason, and basically, I guess you could think of it as a box press Robusto, and the Robusto for Intemperance BA is the breach of the peace. And the breach of the peace is for me, the breach of the peace is an enjoyable cigar, but it's a diminished enjoyment than the Revenge. And I think it's because of the box pressing just gives so much more expression to the blend, to the cigar itself, that I enjoy. That the draw is easier, it flows smoother. I just love that. And so this is why I was thinking about, as I was smoking, like for example, the Neanderthal and the other ones, was that the draw is there's good resistance and there's a lot of smoke, but the draw is very easy. So the draw and the ease of draw is, to my mind, somewhat reminiscent of the box press Revenge, which is very favorable to me, you know. And George says, Neanderthal is my favorite RoMa. To me, it isn't as strong as some LFDs. Oh, yeah. So you are a man-bacco guy. Right on. Yeah, this is nice. So the burn is starting off, you know, the burn's a little bit uneven, and I think that's because, you know, the way that I lit it. And I think that I need to be a little bit more. I think I probably need to slow down a moment to allow that to even out a little bit. You know, you get this little unevenness here, right? Like that right there. Right there's that uneven. Come on, baby. Come on there, daddy. Getting the autofocus to work sometimes is just a little bit tricky. There we go. So as you can see here, right, this unevenness, you know, I get a little bit nervous, right? Like, what if it starts to, like, really canoe? And, oh, man, that would be very disappointing. So finally, Sony released a new or announced a new camera yesterday. So the camera that I use for most of my YouTube videos, as well as the live stream, is this one called the Sony Zv1. And the Zv1 is this all-in-one kind of camera with built-in lens. So it's kind of what they call a point and shoot, right? But it's designed for YouTubers and vlogging and that kind of thing. And it has a lot of nice features incorporated into it that are just nice. Like, for example, the lens is, you know, the lens it's not as wide as most people like. Like, it's only like, 24 millimeters to 70 millimeters. So you really can't reach out and grab something, and you kind of, if you want to have a wider, you know, like you're talking, you have to kind of be a little bit farther away. Like for me to be here, the camera is actually out of my range. Like, I can't reach the camera from where I'm sitting, right? So that's how we get this wide view. And actually, I actually have it zoomed in slightly to create the framing. But the Zv1 has a lot of nice features that make it really friendly to work with. So the new one changes the sensor size. The sensor size is a little bit larger, what they call APS-C. and then now it has an E-mount camera lens mount. So basically, we go from fixed lenses to interchangeable lenses, like most cameras, and which is great. And that's all really nice. You know, it does. You know, if you did make the switch to getting more, you have to buy more lenses, so that costs a little bit more. But the price of the camera really isn't that much more. I mean, it's you can get the camera with a basic kit lens for what, $800, which is, in the world of these mirrorless cameras, that's pretty darn good, especially one that does a lot of nice video work and will live stream and do all the things that it does. But the one thing, and to me this is like one of the biggest advantages of the ZV1. The one thing the ZV1 has that's really amazing is that they have a built-in ND filter. And what ND means neutral density. And what neutral density filters do is that they basically are filters that will allow you to stop down your camera while maintaining your depth of field. So basically it adds, so let's say you want to use a shallow depth of field. So let's say you have a 1.8 lens, and one f1.8 allows you to have, like right now, the f1.8, well actually we're running at 2.8. So my face is very well focused. The background, like for example, this background, right now it's out of focus and fuzzy. That's one thing that the shallow depth of field caused by the the wide aperture allows you to do. And if you want to maintain that in higher light settings, you use these ND filters, and what they'll do, they'll stop down the stop to give you, more dynamic range without changing your focal length or your depth of the F rating. So to have that built into a small point-and-shoot camera that you can take anywhere, put in your pocket, and run around town, was really like amazing. Because most people and most cameras, they have these external ND filters that you'll add on. You screw onto the top on the lens and all that. Which is, most people do that, and that's kind of how filters have always been in cameras, but the ND filters they built in. And so the only cameras that do that have interchangeable lenses that will do that actually cost thousands more. Right? The cheapest one I think is like what, $2,500, which is the Blackmagic cinema camera that's 6K, and that has built-in ND filters. And then the other ones, like the big Canon cinema cameras and all these other stuff, and broadcast cameras, they will all have built-in ND filters to do that. So having that on the ZV1 was awesome. But now with the new one, with the E-mount lens, they have removed the ND filter. So now you have to use these screw-on ones, which a lot of people do, but I don't really want to add more filters like that. I don't want to have to carry more stuff, right? So I'm not as enthusiastic about the new ZV E10 as I thought it was going to be. So I'm a little bit disappointed in that. But how are we doing today? The cigar is doing nicely. And how's your cigars? What are you guys smoking? I know that George is smoking his Mil Diaz. What are the rest of y'all smoking? Drop those in the comments. Like to hear what you're thinking. Like to hear what you're doing. Where you're smoking too, because it's pretty hot outside. Or George, are you outside, or where are you smoking right now? So now that we're into it, I'm enjoying. I am enjoying this. It's got nice flavor. It's got the flavors that I like from the Revenge. And so let's have a look at what the guys. And there's really since this is a pretty new cigar that just came out. What, last month or May? I didn't find too much on it, so let us go and see. Of course, the cat's over at Half Wheel. have done a review. Charlie has his review. Oh, there's Inting. Inting, how are you? Good to see you. The Intemperance BANV, excellent. With a Guinness for tonight. Excellent, excellent. How's the weather up there? Is it pretty humid as well? George says that the humidity has dropped a little bit after a massive thunderstorm. Yeah, there was a pretty heavy-duty thunderstorm down here. Like, you know how people talk about, oh, you know, it's like God's bowling with the thunderstorms. It really sounded like that here. Like, I was like, whoa, that really sounds like someone's bowling up there. That was, you know, you don't really hear that. Like, this was like, it was kind of, like a bowling alley, right? But yeah, I think you're right. I think it definitely did drop a bit. All right, so let's see what Charlie has to say. He says, Petit Gordo seems like it's at odds with itself. And in Spanish, the name translates to the sampler of the small fat ones. Oh, George had a tornado. Wow, really? Did we have a tornado warning here? I don't think we had a tornado warning over here in Cockeysville, but oh yeah, be careful out there. If you start to see, you know, that stuff from Twister, then definitely head out. Definitely be careful out there. Rusty's headed to the airport. Have a safe journey home. Rusty's on the red-eye flight from Honolulu to Newark. So he should be there. So that's like a 10-hour flight, isn't it, Rusty? That might not be too bad. 10 hours? It's a long time. But not bad. All right, so let's see what Charlie's saying. 4 of the cigars are new and never been off before. Also, Cro-Magnon and Aquitaine have been out. Nice. Okay, won't worry about that. Let's see what they talking about the thing. Let's see what they have here. Binder, filler, Nicaragua, undisclosed. Yep, that's normal. The MSRP is $8.33. Again, that's what I like about RoMa, is that lots of flavor, great quality, and at very nice price points, very agreeable price points. You know, especially after we've been smoking these last several weeks of like these cigars that are definitely in the higher price points. It's nice to come back to one that's going to be a little bit more. All right, let's see. What does Charlie have to say? Let's look more. Muted dark brown Brazilian wrapper. Similar to their Intemperances. Good. Aroma from the wrapper is full of barnyard, wet newspaper, underlying sweetness. Brownie-like chocolate, pumpkin seeds, and nutmeg. Maybe the nutmeg and pumpkin. I can see some of the... But the chocolate... I didn't really get any kind of chocolate notes. Or sweet cocoa. Maybe white pepper. Cinnamon. No, I don't think cinnamon. For me, not cinnamon. Like, cinnamon is a very, like, distinct kind of flavor. So it starts off with coffee, toastiness, walnuts, damp cedar, woodiness, some pepper. Yeah, maybe that could be. It's hard for me to say if there's any coffee because, you know, I drink coffee with it, so of course I'm tasting coffee. The nice thing about the cold brew is that it's a very agreeable, easy drinking, and very chuggable. Oh, he says when he does the, what does he say here? He says, blowing smoke out through my nose, but the retrohale has vanilla and nuttiness. Let's see if I can do that. What if I just inhale the cigar, the smoke? Same thing? Ah, this retrohale thing is it eludes me. Very much like milk stout. Oh, milk stout. I could see that. Grains, creaminess, nuttiness. Okay. All right. Maybe Charlie has something going on here. Maybe something going on. So I had some sad news today, or this week. My aunt in the Philippines passed away, which was very sad. But, that's a personal matter. But the other side is that one of my other friends that I from Honolulu, who's also a big cigar guy, he passed away too just a couple days ago. And so his name is Grant Kawasaki, passed away. A chef, he's a chef out there. And man, that was just surprising. I don't really know what happened, but I haven't heard from my friends about it, but I figured I'd talk to them about it later. But it was sad to see, because I haven't seen Grant in a couple of years since I was last at the PCA IPCPR show. Usually there's a group of my friends from Hawaii that actually go to the show, so we usually get together and hang out. Probably the only time that I've been able to see them over the last 5-6 years. Yes, smooth, really, just good flavor. Nice kind of medium to full-bodied. It's kind of bending a little bit. There we go. Look at that. The burn is just kind of strange. I need to slow down. Maybe I need to slow down. Okay, see, I said I'm gonna slow down, but I'm about to puff on it again. Let's not do that. So what else happening in the world? Like I was seeing earlier today that they were talking about how there's a major thaw happening in Greenland. Like so much of Greenland has melted that supposedly it could cover Florida in two. I guess it's enough melt that could cover Florida with 2 inches of water. That's a lot of water. That's a lot of melting. See, I'm smoking again. Can't get away from it. Okay, let's stop. So the Olympics are on. I was a few weeks ago. I thought I would check out. Right, I was thinking, oh, the Olympics would be kind of fun. So last year, before the pandemic, was it last year before the pandemic? Whatever it was. Yeah, it was in 2019 because in 2020 was last year the Olympics were supposed to happen. But in 2019, they had the Rugby World Cup that was being held in Tokyo. And so, of course, a lot of people go to that. And, the one thing about Tokyo that I really like is I can get a hotel room in central Tokyo that's modern, new, clean, efficient, well located. Usually I can get it for like $75, $65, somewhere right around there. Great deals. And that's kind of a normal rate. So the last time I was there, I stayed at this place called Sanchome, the Ginza, or some hotel right in Ginza, which is the fancy like Beverly Hills of Tokyo, right? And so I got a room there for like $75. Now, usually I can get a room in the next neighborhood, Shinbashi, for like $65. This is $10 more, a little bit closer to where I like to go to my cafe. And so the rates for the Rugby World Cup were pretty reasonable. And so I thought, wonder what, like $85 for that hotel. And I was like, wow, it's only $10 more during the World Cup. Like if they came to Baltimore, if they came to other cities, it'd be astronomical, $300, $400 a night. So just for like fun, like maybe about a month ago, I looked online and I was thinking, what about like the first week of August, like next week? How much is this hotel in Ginza during the Olympics? $115 per night. I was like, what? $115? I could go there for during the Olympics, stay for $115. That's ridiculous. Of course, now there's some mitigating circumstances, probably because of the COVID, things and all that. But that to me was just craziness, right? So I thought, well, how much of the flights are? So Baltimore to Narita, United Airlines, for next week, $3,000. I was like, gosh, forget it. Can't go to that. And then if you've been to my shop, so I'll show you this photo, right? If you've been, speaking of the Olympics, right? If you've been to my shop, well, I guess the old shop, you might have come there and you would have seen this sculpture on the wall. A beautiful steel sculpture by my friend Steve Baker, right? Awesome. This is an awesome, everybody's stunned by it. And actually, it's funny, this sculpture, right? Like when we started Spro in 2010 at that location, I was very much against having art of any kind. Like, you go to coffee shops, there's always some kind of art on the wall. And by some local artist that's selling it, they're selling consignment or they're selling whatever. And, it's never very well thought out. And so I didn't want to do any of that. I don't want to deal with any of that. That's not what we want to do. We want to provide a curated environment. So it was just as easy to eschew all of that. So no art, no Wi-Fi, no music, none of the trappings that you normally get in these coffee shops, right? And so years would go by, and people were always asking, what about art? What about art? Oh, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. But then finally, Steve had been working on me. He's like, "What? I got this piece in my studio. I think it'd be perfect here, blah, 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 blah." For maybe like 2 years, he kept asking me. So finally I was like, all right, let's see it. So he showed me a picture. I was like, oh, that looks pretty good. And he said, it will fit across the wall. Like, that's what I want. I wanted something that would fit across the wall. Like, at one point I thought I would do this photograph of this. There was a place called El Burbillon in El Salvador, and I had a photo of this guy who was raking the coffee, drying on the patios. Like, it would have been this epically large. Like, I want it to be epically large, right? But Steve was like, hey, I got this piece. Why don't you check it out? So I was like, all right, fine, let's try it. So he put it up. This must have been 2017 he put it up. So we had been operating for 7 years, all right? And damn, it looked good. Man, it looked great. People loved it. It was just fantastic. Like, the roots, right? The roots. These are tree roots. I'll show you. You can kind of see this tree pattern. And the tree roots themselves are actually metal, steel. And it's the color comes from the rust patina that coats the piece. And it's just an awesome piece. Awesome. So finally, I put a post up today that said, hey, we're getting rid of everything, and the piece is available. And so I had a bunch of people come, reply to it. And one of our guests, Giselle, she was like, I saw later that she had sent me a DM on Instagram, and she's like, what's the details? But she was was enthusiastic for it that she just ran down to the shop and found me at the shop, and she's like, well, what's the deal with it? And I was like, well, this is the cost, and all the money goes to the artist. I'm not taking any of it. And actually, he's coming over to pick up the piece, so if you want it, you can have it. And she was like, yes, I'll be right back. So she ran over to the bank, got the money, came back. Steve came over, and then that was it. So where was it? So here they are, Steve and Giselle, with the piece right before they took it off the wall. So we took it off the wall and put it into her like Honda CRV, or was it RAV4, whatever it was, and she drove it home. Huh? That's a great score. That was a great score. If nobody had it, I was trying to figure out where I could put it. I was like, where could I put this thing? But it's a wonderful piece. It was a wonderful piece. Oh, anyway, so the reason I brought that up, because I was talking about the Olympics, and Steve, is like a world-class belayer. And if you're not familiar, belayers are the guys that, he's the guy in the red, right? Belayers are the guys that prevent rock climbers from, falling off the rocks and killing themselves. And he has this particular style of belaying that prevents the rock climbers. So like if you fall off the rock cliff, you could swing and crash into the rock face and, mess yourself up. But evidently he has a style that prevents you from falling into the rock or swinging into the rock. And so he's kind of in high demand. And so they wanted him to come and belay at the Olympics. Unfortunately, they had too many people because of the COVID restrictions. They had too many people on the team. And, they had 20 spots and he was like 21. So he did not get to go. But he does get to go to a lot of these world championships around the world and belay for all the champions or all the competitors. And, I was like, wow, a belayer. Wow, you actually get to travel for that? Well, it's like coffee. You get to travel for coffee, for judging? What? That's crazy. So we were talking today how much he missed it, but he was like, he's like, well, they want us to come to the 2024 Olympics. Is that right? 2024, yeah, which are, sadly, they're in LA, which is not terribly exciting, but, at least you're going to the Olympics. And I was like, do you get a jacket? Because that would be kind of awesome. Team USA, or Team Olympics, whatever their team is, it'd be awesome. I don't know if you saw that one girl that did the fencing in the Olympics. Man, she was amazing. Like, she was battling the #1 fencer, which is this Russian woman. And she totally beat her, like shockingly. Like, evidently people were shocked. And the Russian girl was very, very shocked. She had this look of like, did that really happen? Did I really lose? I don't know. Is the Summer Olympics as scintillating as the Winter Olympics? Like, what can really equal the thrill of curling? Huh? Like, there's so much intensity in curling. But I saw some of the racing with the catamarans, the 2-man catamarans. Oh my gosh. The sailing. Oh my God, that looked amazing. Wish I could have done that. And then, of course, the big thing in America is Simone Biles. Everyone's upset with Simone because she decided to pull out. My thought is that, you know what? Perhaps if you have your own, if you're a qualifying medalist, then you might have something to say. But otherwise, that's enough. That's enough. So the cigar's rolling along. We're rolling along now. Great flavor. There's some creaminess to it now. There's a light, the spice has kind of diminished and just kind of smoothened out. And it's just become really enjoyable, a little bit creamy. How are you guys doing with the COVID? Evidently, we're going to go back to masks. So I was kind of thinking yesterday, I was like, you know what? Everybody's going to have to go back to wearing masks. And I'm a little bit excited because, it's the middle of summer and, man, it's blazingly hot out there. And when you're wearing a mask at the shop and you're working and you're sweating, man, and the mask gets wet, it is a little bit harder to breathe, right? It's a little bit harder to work with. It just kind of sucks, right? So I was thinking yesterday, I was like, you know what? Shop's closed. Masks are coming back, and I get to work alone again. That's all right. That's all right. Good timing. Good timing. Because, for the most part, I get to work in solitude. So I can just kind of hang out, do my thing. So we're rolling along. It's sort of evening out, sort of, a little bit here and there. So some of the guys in my union, the IATSE, which is the movie production union for most of the workers. So there's like the IA, which is the biggest. And this actually kind of upset me the other day. So in motion picture making, we have the IATSE, the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees and Motion Picture Machine Operators of the United States and Canada. And our union comprises pretty much most everyone that works on a movie, with the exception of the Teamsters, the guys that drive the trucks, the directors, the DGA, which is basically your director, first AD, second AD, and then the other union is SAG, of course, which is Screen Actors Guild, the actors, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much and the Writers Guild, the writers. That's pretty much the entirety of most unions that cover motion picture production. But the IA controls everyone, right? The IA is pretty much over, outside of the other ones, most everybody on set is IA. So they had this report the other day on NPR where they were talking about how there's some kind of, I forgot the exact story, it was last week, and they were talking about how the production unions, the biggest production unions, are pushing back against the producers for something. And NPR was like, yeah, the DGA, the Writers Guild, and the Screen Actors Guild. And I was like, what? What about the IA? Everybody is IA, and you're talking about these other unions that, the other unions combined don't equal the IA. So it made me think, as much as the IA is big and we have everybody, I think the union has a PR issue, has a PR problem, right? Because nobody seems to know that. Everybody knows the DGA, everybody knows SAG, everyone knows Teamsters, everyone knows the Writers Guild, for God's sake. And all of them can strike. The IA cannot strike. Like, evidently the national contract of the IA with the Producers Guild. Why producers need a guild, I don't know. They have all the money. And with the studios, the national contract, I think, from what my business agent told me years ago, is that we can't strike. We're like the police. We can't strike. Everybody else can strike but us. These are labor issues that need to be addressed. Perhaps I should run for national president. No, too much politics. But anyway, what was my? Oh, so some of the guys that I know from the IA, they were talking today. They're like, Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney. The news is that Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney over the release of the Black Widow movie, and so evidently, Scarlett's contract with Disney her compensation is based on the theatrical release, the box office totals, right? And so I'm not sure exactly how her contract works, but basically a lot of her compensation will be tied to how well the movie does in the theaters at the box office. So her lawsuit evidently says that Disney's under breach of contract because they released it on their streaming service, Disney Plus, which I guess Scarlett doesn't have. There's nothing in her contract that says that she gets the compensation based on the streaming. And so it's kind of been Disney's way of getting around some of these contract payment issues by releasing it on their streaming service where they don't have to compensate the actors. And they're evidently using COVID, the pandemic, as kind of the cover for why they're doing that. But you've got other movies such as like Fast and Furious 9 that were only theatrical releases, and I think Skyfall is waiting until they can do just only a theatrical release, and Top Gun 2 is doing the same thing. Oh, still rolling. Oh, gosh, sorry about that, guys. Still rolling. This is the Intemperance BA21 from RoMa Craft, the War, which is a 4.5 by 60 big ring gauge. It's still holding well, right? Still holding together. There's a part of me at this length, I want to start tapping it, only because I don't want it to fall over everything. I don't want it to fall on my drink. Actually, speaking of drink, we've been drinking the Prola Negra from Spro. Get online at the website. Still a fantastic drink. But we should try some other libations. So let's do a little rum. I'm going to try the Crook and Sweeney 23. Right? George says, quality build. Tough to have a 60 ring perform like that. Yeah, look at that thing. That thing is still holding strong. Like there's a crack right here. I don't think you can see it. You can see that crack, right? So I'm concerned that's where it's going to fall off. I should not keep the bottle underneath it, just in case. So here's a question for you. I did one puff there, but really, I kind of cut that puff short. When you guys are smoking your cigars, do you do one puff or do you do 2 or 3? Like typically I'm doing 2, maybe 3. 2, typically 2. How do you guys do your cigars? All right, so here we are, Crook and Sweeney. Such nice color, huh? Look at that. Nice color, clarity's good. Nice vanilla. I really am more of a rum kind of guy. I'm not so as enthralled by whiskeys and scotches. I like the sweetness of a lot of the rums. Like the less sweetness a rum has, as it becomes more like a whiskey, I'm a little bit more diminished in my enthusiasm. Like, for example, the 25-year Flor de Caña. When it first came out, I got a little bit of it. And nice rum overall, but it's really whiskey. It's really bourbon-esque in that the sweetness is really diminished. So if you like bourbons, the 25-year Flor de Caña is the way to go. Is a good one to check out. So George says 2 to 3 always. Yeah. That's for the puffing. For the puffing, 2 to 3. Yeah, that's. I wonder why that is. Why do we do that? Is that a universal thing? So still holding together. Nice. Did you guys also get any time to catch the congressional hearings on the January 6th terrorist attacks? I listened to a part of it on NPR. They had the first day when they had some of the officers talking, and I was like, God, it's crazy. It was madness. Like that one guy, I forgot his name. I don't remember which cop it was, but man, he was like getting beat down. Like they were beating him with their fists, beating him with like they got his baton away from him. They beat him with his baton. I just wondered, like, what point do you just like, do you just not shoot everybody? Like, why not just mow everybody down? Like, everyone's attacking you. Like, why not just blow them all away? Yeah, so it looks like we're going to go back to masks. And finally, I think, was it Mitch McConnell came out and said he wants people to wear masks, which is like, what? What? That's crazy. I thought it was a hoax. The time when you know that things are changing is when that, what's her name, Marjorie Green or whatever her name is, when she starts telling people to wear masks, then you know the world is upside down. But evidently they say that they're saying now that the only people that are dying from the pandemic are those who've been unvaccinated. Actually, I had a friend of mine today. She was asking me today. She's like, should I take the vaccine? I was like, you should probably take the vaccine. But I heard that it's like people die from it. It's like, well, yeah, but maybe some people have died from it, but more people are dying because they haven't taken it. And then she had the whole story about, well, what if the magnetic thing? And I was like, with the people, having the spoons. It's like, spoons are not magnetic, first of all. Actually, what spoons are magnetic? Spoons are not magnetic. I just realized that. Like, I don't believe that I have a spoon that actually that has enough ferrous material to be magnetized, or to be, to stick to magnets. I'll have to try that. Maybe I'll make my own video. So some of my friends, have you guys, so like Steve, he was the guy that with the sculpture, the artist, Belair. He just came back from Wyoming, where he was climbing Devil's Tower. You know that thing that was in, that tower that's in Close Encounters of the Third Kind? He had some photos of that where they were climbing, and it's like these like straight up and down like columns where you're like, I was like, wow, that's just fascinatingly freaky. Like, you're like, whoa. Whoa. And then we're having evidently we're almost fully out of Afghanistan. I heard a report on NPR. I'm always listening to NPR in the mornings, getting my Chick-fil-A and then driving into work. And they were saying that we're almost completely out of Afghanistan now. After 20 years, we're finally getting out. Did we learn anything? Like, I remember growing up here in America, right? Especially during the 80s, when our blood enemy was the Soviet Union. I think that we were in Afghanistan longer than the Soviets, or at least maybe the same amount of time. And I don't think we've achieved anything more than the Soviets did. So evidently what I've been hearing is that as our forces have been pulling out, the Taliban has been taking over like the checkpoints on the border. So it's Taliban in Afghanistan. The Afghani forces are battling for which border controls they can control, which border crossings they can control. But I don't know. We always try to do these things like nation building, but I wonder, does that ever work? Like, we didn't have, like, when we were America, when we were a colony. Of course, there were nations like France that were very happy to help America fight the British because, well, they hate the British, right? But it's not like they were giving us our nation or our political structure, our societal structure. We had to battle it out. Like, we had to go and beat the British in a natural setting, meaning that we just had to fight and make our own. And I wonder if that's the only way for any nation to really form itself, right? Like, we can do all we can. We can do all kinds of stuff in like countries like Afghanistan, but unless they're able to do it themselves, how can it ever stick? All right, so it's getting a little bit saggy. Smoking well though. I kind of want to tap it out. So, I have this, and again, I know a lot of people have been getting a lot of, especially this past year, everyone's been doing a lot of ordering from home, having stuff shipped to their home or whatever. And there's all kinds of shenanigans that happen with that, people stealing your packages and all that. And one of the things that I've always done, at least for myself, for my personal stuff, I would always have it shipped to the shop or shipped to the post office. Mainly because those are places where people will take possession of the package and I don't have to worry about it. And I know a lot of people have a lot of problems with like UPS and FedEx and all that, but I really haven't had those kind of problems. Like, I've enjoyed very good relations typically with UPS and FedEx and our drivers. So, for example, like here at the roastery, I know our driver here. I have his phone number. And so, like yesterday, I came in yesterday afternoon, and there was a notice on the door that said, "Hey, we tried to deliver a package. You weren't here. We'll come back tomorrow," or whatever. And so I was like, "Well, I'm not going to be here tomorrow morning. So let me call my guy." So I texted him. I said, "Hey, Bill, I got the notice. I'm not going to be there tomorrow. I'm going to be there in the afternoon." And so he sends me back a message. He's like, "Oh, well, I'm actually on vacation for the next 2 weeks, but let me talk to the fill-in driver for me, and we'll work it out." So I text back later, and he's like, "How about if," because those guys have a route, right? They need to get their stuff done, and so he asked me, "Well, what time do you think you'll be there?" I said, "Well, probably not till after 2:00." And he's like, "Well, how about this? Is it all right if he leaves the package by the door? And it's supposed to rain, right? So it's of course, a cardboard box." And he's like, "Is it all right if he leaves it by the door, and he'll even bag it so to protect it from the rain?" And I was like, "Okay, that's cool. That'll work out." So that's what he did. The guy came, delivered the package. We worked it all out, and there it was, sitting on the doorstep with a bag over it. So, go brown. Look at that. What a strange curve. Ah, son of a gun. There it is. There it is. Oh, it's burning my pants. Should have tapped it out. All right, hang on. Let me. Oh man, the one thing about having this 60 ring gauge and having 2.5 inches of it as ash is that when it falls and it breaks, man, it's everywhere. Oh gosh, it's everywhere here. It's on my pants. It's on my shirt. I'm inhaling it now. All right, there we go. The Intemperance BA21 War. has fallen. Which reminds me, I'm thinking about something. You know, when you're looking at when you're coming to the live stream, there are these things called thumbnails that we make, these images that we use to attract people to come to the live stream or to any of the videos. So the live stream videos, you know, I've been using this white background with the logos and the cigar. What do you guys think about that? Looks nice? Attractive? Does it generate interest, or should I be trying something else? Oops. So the flavor has been pretty static. It's nice. It's got this. It's different. It's actually in many respects it tastes a bit different than the Revenge, right? This one has a more creaminess to it that I think is quite interesting. It's different than the Revenge. And I wonder if that's maybe because it's got so much more, like it's a bigger cigar, it's a thicker cigar, so it's got more of that tobacco in it, more hitting your palate. So here, this last few days of July, evidently the meteor showers that happen are going to be much more intense from what I've been reading. What do they call it? The Delta Aquarids meteor shower. So evidently, last night and tonight. Tonight is one of the biggest nights to see it. And it should light up the sky. Hopefully they'll all burn up and not actually impact with the planet and wipe us all out. That would be quite inconvenient. Ooh, a little bit more spice right now. So evidently there's this comet called the 96P Mach-Holtz, and the Delta Aquarids, the meteor shower breaks off. These are evidently broken pieces from, or I don't know, broken off of it, but you know, I guess as it flies by nearby, it sends these meteors, and they impact with the planet's atmosphere and burn up, and give it a nice show. Actually, there's that place that, I don't know, what's the name of that place? There's a place up in Pennsylvania, about 5 hours from here, that they say that is one of the best locations for stargazing in our country. And evidently you can drive up there 5 hours away, and you're in the middle of nowhere, and you go there before sunset, and you kind of camp out, and you hang out there, and it's like, supposedly you can see, like, it's supposed to be immense. I've always wanted to check it out. I imagine that people just camp out there overnight. Because, I mean, are you going to leave and, like, turn on your lights and then everybody gets mad with you? So here we are. We're getting towards the band. So the spice has kind of picked up. The strength, like the feeling of the strength of the tobacco is starting to pick up as well. Like, I can feel the strength more. And then speaking of comets, there's actually another comet that's coming. And it's supposed to be the largest comet that we know of. It's called the Bernardelli-Bernstein Oh, it's called the Bernardelli Bernstein, and it's supposed to come close to our sun in 2031. So it's a little bit of ways off, about 10 years away. But they say it's going to be pretty amazing. You know, that's one thing, speaking of comments, like, the one nice thing about having the shop in Hamden is that a lot of our guests are, professors or scientists that work at Johns Hopkins University. And they have a lot of them are people that work on the Webb and the Hubble telescopes. So I will, one of the things I will miss is having these discussions with those guys about astronomy and intellectually scientific stuff. Most of which I don't really understand because it's way beyond what I can comprehend. But it is very, to me, very interesting, like to talk to them about the different, like, stars and planets and black holes and all that stuff. All right, so I took off the band because the band's going to get burned and, you have to pull it off of the top. I do think that this is the conspiracy of RoMa Craft. This whole, like, we're using this wine label papers and using very high tense glue so it doesn't peel off, it tears. And if you want to have it whole, you got to pull it over the cherry of your cigar and burn your fingers a little bit. Perhaps that's the man bacco experience. Like, you have to be a man to do it. Nice flavor. Nice cigar. But I guess the question is, will it supplant the Revenge? And I would say right now, no. Mainly because, like, it's just a very different expression of the Intemperance blend. And it's a very different experience than the Revenge. Like, the Revenge has power and spice and flavor throughout the entire thing. This definitely has more of an interesting curve in that, like, lately it's been, the last, third, it's been more on the creamy side. A little bit of spice now towards the end of that third. So it's just different. It's just different. Now, here's something interesting. The country of Australia. So according to this news report, the country of Australia, let's have a look. The country of Australia once reveled in being the lucky country on COVID-19. Now the Aussies feel like prisoners. It's interesting to see this article because the group that I do judging with, is called World Coffee Events, and most of what I do in coffee judging is going to different nations to help them stage their national coffee championships. And then when I'm going to those countries, I oversee the event to make sure that it's being done correctly, and I train the judges and make sure that everything is run smoothly. And so that all culminates. So every nation has their own championship, and they name their own champion, and then they send their champions to the World Championship that happens. And so they finally scheduled the World Championship for this year. And they're going to have it the end of October 22nd, in Milan, Italy. And so they announced that, and so I was talking with a bunch of the guys that do what I do around the world. There's like 30 of us that do this, and most of them probably will not be attending because, like, for example, the guys that are in Australia, they were like, well, we really can't leave. And if we did leave, we would have to quarantine when we arrive there, test to get back, then quarantine when we get back. And they're like, well, we just can't do that. You know, you quarantine before, quarantine after, and then you do your trip. So if you're gone for a week, now you're talking a whole month of total quarantine and travel. So they can't go, or they won't be doing that. And then a lot of these nations that normally participate, they have the same problem. So it's unlikely they're going to send their champions. So it's like, makes me wonder what's going to happen. Like, I was joking with some of them because some of them, the guys that do what I do that are based in Europe, they can go. So I guess if you wanted to have a higher position in the championship, this is the time to go, because maybe there'll be almost no one there. So you'll get the more choice assignments. So let's see, what are they saying here? They're saying that blah, blah, blah. Oh, they've been shut down. Oh, there's too much to read. So yeah, it makes you kind of wonder what's going to happen with that. Like, they were supposed to have the championships in Taiwan. They decided to cut. Well, Taiwan's got more problems, so Taiwan decided to cancel their event. Then they moved it to Milan. And I don't know what's going to happen. But I was looking at Milan, right? So I was like, oh, maybe I can go to Milan. You know, I have some friends that have gone to Italy and to France in the last few weeks, and they said it was fairly okay to do that. And so this event they're hosting at Milan in conjunction with the host show. And the host show is a big food service restaurant trade show that happens in Milan every other year. And it's one of the biggest in the world. Like, it takes up all of the Milan convention spaces, and there's multiple halls, and each hall has like a different thing, like coffee's in one, and then restaurants are another. And I've never been, I've only heard about it, and I've kind of always wanted to go. But so I started looking at hotel rates. And remember how we talked about Tokyo with, like, I could get a hotel room in the center of Tokyo for $115 a night during the Olympics? Well, during host, hotels are like $300, $400, $500, $700 per night, plus $900 to fly there. And I was like, oh, that's just crazy. So it's unlikely I will be going. Actually, and it kind of coincided. Like, I wanted to go to 3 trade shows this fall. So we have our big Specialty Coffee Association trade show, which is happening in November, in September 30th in New Orleans. So I'm planning to go to that. I already have hotel rooms for that booked. Actually paid for. But anyway, so that happens at the end of September. And then during the same time as the Milan show, they're having the NAB show in Vegas, which is the National Association of Broadcasters. And then just after that, there's another one called VidCon, which is about YouTube creators, like that kind of thing, that convention. I've been interested to see what that's like, so I wanted to go to that. And that's going to happen in Anaheim. However, I was talking to some of the guys that within the YouTube world that normally go to these shows, and I was like, hey, are you guys going to do this NAB thing? And they're like, no, we're not going to do the NAB. So I'm like wondering, like, is it even worth going? So I don't think I probably won't go to any of them, except for the specialty coffee one. So here we are, we're in the last third. Still very creamy, still very smooth. Strength, and that's the interesting about this cigar. Creaminess, but strength. Something I've also been thinking about is like this is where we've been doing most of our live streams, right? This setup here, and I'm wondering, like, how does it look to you guys, like the background? Like I'm thinking, how do we make the background better, more visually interesting? Like that's what's been on my mind lately. Oh, there's Brian. Hey, Brian, what's going on, man? Brian's out in New Mexico at the moment, out there in Corrales. How are things in Corrales? Did you make it to the cigar shop, or? Oh, speaking of New Mexico, have you heard any word about what's going on with Bob Odenkirk? My friend messaged me yesterday. He's like, hey, Bob Odenkirk, he was on the set of Better Call Saul, and he collapsed. And they put him in the hospital. So I don't know, but we haven't heard anything about it. So have you heard anything yet? Oh, you're back in Baltimore, or? Oh, at Monty's Cigar Shop. Oh, it's still out there. Okay, good. What do you got smoking on for you tonight? We're smoking tonight the War from Intemperance from RoMa Craft, BA21. And it's been good. It's been good. Strength, a lot of creaminess. Starts off with nice spice. Center's been very creamy. Now we're getting towards the end of the strength, and a little bit of spice has reemerged, but the creaminess is still the dominant character in this cigar. And evidently, speaking of RoMa Craft, in case you're interested, the 2021 Craft Series has finally been released. I've been a little bit confused about it because I see Skip one day, yesterday, he's posting that here are the boxes of the Craft at the factory in Nicaragua. And then there's Sean, pretty much the same day or the day after. He's like, here they are at the HQ in Austin. I was like, wow, that's pretty fast shipping. And then there's stores that have them already that are selling, that are sold out. I was like, wow, man, that stuff is just blazing. They must be flying that stuff in. So Brian's smoking the Perdomo 12-year Tubo. So good. Nice, nice. 12-year Tubo. I haven't tried that one yet. How's the selection of Monty's? I don't know if you remember from last week's show, we were talking last week with George Brightman about checking out this cigar shop up in northern New Jersey. I've got to figure out when to do that. Like, I'm supposed to do a trip to Ohio sometime in August. I've been trying to coordinate with my friend out in St. Louis. We're supposed to meet up in Cincinnati. And one of our buddies out there we have a whole group of friends, right, that meet up every blue moon now. But he was like, well, I'm trying to find the time, because evidently he's got kids, and they got all this scheduling with like kids activities, sports, and all this, and his work. And it's like, wow, man, your calendar's crazy. My calendar is very wide open right now. Oh, excellent selection of Monty's. Excellent. Love it, love it. Actually, it was New Mexico years ago. So I was in New Mexico. The very first time I went to New Mexico was in 1996. And I went to this cigar shop in Albuquerque. And they turned me on to this one cigar. It was the Bahia by Tony Barani. And back then, Tony Barani was making the cigars at, I believe, at Tabacalera Tambor in Costa Rica. And there were these Corona cigars in just a typical cabinet box. Man, they were just awesome. They were awesome. One of the best cigars I had smoked in that era. And I remember I bought a box, and I was like, man, these are just amazing. And so Borhani actually did very well back then. Like he was probably one of the very first boutique kind of cigars that I'd ever tried. Because back then it was really just Fuente, Pleiades, Partagas, Dunhill. A lot of the classics, right? And man, I just love that one. And so but unfortunately, over time, Borani sold off, and now it's more of a mass produced. So it's not as I guess as significant as the cigars it used to be. And then Brian says, there will now be Perdomo. I'm like, oh, Perdomo in your cabinet. Walt will be very, very happy to hear that. And those of you who may not be familiar, Walt is a buddy of ours who lives here in Maryland. He's actually the regional representative for Perdomo in this area. Great guy, jazz. Actually, he's a jazz saxophonist. Played with a lot of really interesting and I think very, very famous jazz musicians over the years. Great guy, works really hard. I think it's a little bit abused by the company, but good guy. So we're getting a little bit of unevenness here. I'm gonna touch it just a little bit. Just even it out. So Brian, when do you return from your trip? So along with the cigar, we're drinking a little bit of what is this? We're drinking a little bit of the Kirk and Sweeney 23-year rum. Very nice, very nice. A lot of nice vanilla and caramel notes to it. Lightly sweet, not very sweet. In rumratings.com, it's pretty well reviewed. I think it's over 8.6 out of 10. Oh, speaking of 8.6 out of 10, that reminds me, let's go back and see how the rest of Charlie Minaro's went. So here he says the wort takes a sharp turn in profile, turning away from the sweetness, going to earthiness, woody, cedar hickory, white pepper, toasted grains, contrast between main flavors and the creaminess. So he's getting some creaminess, so we're getting some similarities. Oh, so Brian says, sorry for the miscommunication. He's back in town today. Stopped by Tobacco Leaf to get a war, but wanted to burn another Perdomo too. Did they have the wars in stock at Tobacco Leaf? I was there over the weekend, and their RoMa selection was pretty low. I was like, oof, oof. Well, here's some interesting. So, Charlie did make it to the Weasel Fest that happened in May. I had tickets to go, but I wasn't able to make it, mainly because, I didn't really want to travel during COVID. And so he says that more of a block party with no budget than a cigar fent. But RoMa went all out and then some, which looked really surprisingly whoa, when I saw the pictures. The food and drink music were better than any cigar. I mean, they brought in a lot of the local purveyors of restaurants. So they brought in Style Switch to do their barbecue, and you could pretty much eat a lot of barbecue and some other food. They also had their headliner was Scarface. I'm not too familiar with a lot of the hip hop, modern day hip hop, but Scarface is actually evident, pretty well known, and so I guess he's a friend of theirs and smokes RoMa. So Brian also says the 12-year Perdomo non-tubo still. So I wonder if there's something about the tubo, because they're packaging it at the factory, I imagine, that seals in maybe that freshness, the quote-unquote freshness. Maybe that kind of makes the big difference for those Perdomos. Huh. Interesting. So as it says here, unlike most events, RoMa was pretty uninterested in selling anything and was more focused on making sure people had a good time. Well, that's good. That's good. That's good. Price of admission was more than most events, but the return was investment was substantially more. He says, I'm not sure if RoMa has any plans for more, but evidently from what some of the comments that Skip had made on his Facebook, he gives the impression that they're going to do it again, which would be great, because I would love to go and actually attend the next event. So here he goes again, lively internal debate, the cigar name, and whether it's oxymoron, the whole idea of it being petite gordo, like jumbo shrimp. Short gordo, So let's see, actually what I was interested to see was what they gave it. So Charlie gives it a 91. He says, I haven't fully resolved whether Intemperance is a good expression of this blend. That's an interesting point. Like I was saying, I was really interested to try this on this show, because I wanted, after smoking like the Neanderthal, the Aquitaine, and then the Cro-Magnon, I was really like, the expression of those blends in this size was really kind of made me wonder, like, well, would this be the cigar to supplant the Revenge? And that's why I wanted to do it here, because I wanted it to be like as raw as possible, right? And I don't think it will supplant the Revenge. It's an interesting cigar. It's good, but is it? But it's to me that, especially with the creaminess that happens through the second, third onward, it's really, to me, it's a real departure from the typical Intemperance Brazil Arapiraca experience. So he talks about a dynamic sweetness that isn't usually present and nuanced profile. Yeah, it's interesting. Like I think with Revenge, you pick out a lot more like distinct flavors, where this is kind of very blended. Like I said early on, the first third, I was talking about how it had spiciness, but it wasn't like I didn't really think that it was like really black pepper or any kind of pepper or anything like that, or any particular type of spice. It was really this kind of interesting blend. So Brian, on the 12-year Tubo from Perdomo, says the wrapper is like silk, no flaws or veins. Wow. Perhaps that's one of the premier cigars for Perdomo. But 91, so 91. Is it 91? Yeah, I mean, I could agree. I would agree with that. It's very good. It's just very different. It's very different than the typical Intemperance Revenge, BA. Which I think is good, because, it's like, it's kind of like this thing where you smoke these RoMas and they're constantly like surprising you. It's a surprise. It's a different experience. Like, you're expecting one thing, but it delivers something else, which is But it's still very good. It's just a different than what you would normally expect. The nice thing is I still have the rest of the half of this box, right? So I still have another round of each one to experience. There it is. Thank you, Skip, for the very kind offering. I very much appreciate it. I finally smoked another one of the Weaselitos yesterday, the day before. And the Weaselitos are interesting because they're pre-cut and they're really small, about like that big. And I had smoked the Tatuaje Avion before that, and I was watching this. What was I watching? I was watching a movie. Not the one with Kate Beckinsale. Anyway, I was watching this movie and I wanted to finish it, and I wanted to continue smoking while I finish it. So I chose one of the Weaselitos, and you know, I have like several of them here. But the Weaselito is interesting because there's actually 3 different blends. There's nothing really to distinguish other than the wrapper, perhaps, which one you're smoking. And because I'm smoking in like a darker environment, I really don't know what I was smoking. But it was still good. Still good. Although I don't believe that the Weaselitos are available in the United States. Yes, I saw Joe. Oh, yes, I saw that yesterday. Enjoyable. And you know, anything with Kate Beckinsale is always enjoyable. And have you ever seen her like interviews, like she's on like talk shows? Like, it's really interesting. Like, I remember my favorite Kate Beckinsale movie is that one with John Cusack. What's it called? Not Say Anything. Serendipity, where they fall in love and all that. And so ever since then, I've been a fan of Kate. But when you watch her, like, on interviews, she seems like a very posh and proper woman. Like, she's very erect. Like, her posture is, like, super, like, perfect. Her diction is really, like, proper. Like, everything about her is, like, super proper. Like, very posh. You're like, oh, my gosh. I would love to date her, but I don't know if I'm posh enough. But she has blonde hair in Jolt. Interesting. And so who else is in there? Stanley Tucci's in the movie. That guy who was John Connor's son, huh? From the Terminator movie, the one with Emilia Clarke. That guy's in it. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's good. I think you'll enjoy it. The other one that I was watching, I think it was the one with, it was the one, that was what I was watching when I was smoking the cigars. It was the bodyguard's wife, the hitman's wife bodyguard. The one with Ryan Reynolds, Salma Hayek. That's a good one too. English. Oh, she's good. I like it. I love it. Oh, speaking of English and Doctor Who, well, not that there's really a connection, but the English part. They announced today that Jodie Whittaker, which is the 13th Doctor, the current Doctor, will be ending her tenure after after the next series release in 2022. You know, Doctor Who, I really enjoyed Doctor Who. However, like, they've taken so long to produce the series that it's like, you kind of like it won't come out till 2022, so you're like, wow. You know, Jodie Whittaker's leaving. Well, so what? I mean, it's been so long since the last one, well, no one's really paying attention anymore. All right, so we're coming down to the very end. You know, I'm at that point where it's so short that I'm inhaling part of it, which causes that gag reaction. Oop. But we're continuing on. My time flies already. I was actually planning to get a little bit of tasting of this, of our sake back, but no time for that. We're almost out of cigar. All right, so I have planned out the next, gosh, almost 2 months worth of episodes that we're going to be doing for the live stream. So next week, we're going to be smoking on which is August 5th, we're going to be smoking the Trinidad Espiritu Fundador, which finally we're going to get to. That was actually we were actually supposed to smoke that cigar back in the middle of July, like 2-3 weeks ago. But it kept pushing back. So we're finally going to get to that. Then the week after, on August 12th, we're going to do the Espinosa WarZone Short Churchill. And then after that, I found this one called Fruit Leather, which is something called LCA. I don't know what that means, but basically these fruit leathers are from some kind of like exclusive like cigar group that makes very, very limited releases of cigars. And so they came out with this fruit leather that so this group evidently is one where, if you're a member, you get the cigars. But they've created another line. That's what Rahul was telling me, that are for retailers to sell. Then on August 26th, we're going to do the Villa Casdagli Robusto. September 2nd, we're going to do the Lampert 1675 Azul Toro. Then September 9th, we're going to be trying the Gran Habano Blue and Green Gran Robusto. And then finally, September 16th, we're going to be smoking the Cloud Hopper number 485, which is also Robusto. So that's coming up. So the big question that we always ask especially since Rusty's always wants to know that, would I buy it again? The War. Yeah, for sure. It won't supplant the Revenge in my lineup, but it's definitely worth smoking more of them, especially because it's got a very different flavor profile than almost any other Intemperance. Like that creaminess really is something that I don't normally see a lot of, and I think that'll be quite interesting. All right, so there it is. The RoMa Craft Intemperance BA21 War. The 4.5 by 60 Petite Gordo, which Charlie at Half Wheel says is kind of an oxymoron. Even now, still good smoke, good draw, flavorful, but that creaminess really is just kind of, making. So there's the strength. It's still strong. It's still a strong cigar that has some spice, but the creaminess kind of overlays all of that and just makes for a whole different experience. And it's burning my fingers. So we're going to put this down. I'm going to put this down and bring it to an end. So thank you very much for spending another one of your Thursday nights with me, doing absolutely nothing of value other than just enjoying the time. So thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you again. My fingers really are burning. So yes, that's about it. Thank you very much. We'll be back again next Thursday, August 5th, with the Trinidad Espiritu Fundador. So if you have a chance, go down to Rahul, to see Rahul at Tobacco Leaf, pick one of those up and have it ready for next week. And if there's anything you want me to cover for topics like coffee or cigars, or any kind of guest you'd like us to have, drop them in the comments below. Let me know. We'll work on that for next time. So, other than that, thank you very much and see you next time.